Hey, Jeff Dawson here in front of Franklin Hall, one of the really successful businesses that we've opened in DC. In 2016, we found this space. It was a warehouse. It had been a place where they repaired the old streetcars that used to run around DC. Since then, it had become a charter school. In fact, we've had charter school kids come and have their anniversaries at the bar, which is kind of cool. They're like, this used to be the science lab. Our landlord signed WeWork to be upstairs, so we thought, great, we'll have a bunch of young office people come in after work and get drinks and stuff. We'll be able to open and it'll be a nice little spot. As we got ready to open, we had these big doors where they used to bring the vehicles in to work. We had these signs that we put on them. On this one, we had a giant sign that said, "We drink." So we had "We work" and "We drink." It was a big hit with our customers. And then we got a letter from WeWork's legal department saying that we were creating confusion. I don't think there's anything confusing about that message. But we didn't feel like fighting with a well-funded legal team, so we just changed it. Now we're open, but we still drink. One of our great victories recently, we are now the Arsenal Home Bar, which is just fantastic. Come on in, I'll show you around. Here you have it. I still remember the first time we came in here, we just looked around and it was industrial, it was rough. The floor, which had been part of a charter school, was painted red to be a cheerful thing for them to come into. And one of the big questions when you open a bar is, oh, what kind of floor are we gonna have? So we just kind of hemmed and hawed and did not make any decisions, but the construction went on top of this concrete slab painted red, and it just chipped it away and turned it into a nice patina. And I was like, this looks great, let's finish it, keep it just the way it is. So we put a coat of finish on it, and to this day, this is the floor that cost us almost nothing. The building itself is fantastic. It's this one big room, long bar. The idea for us was to create a space where people could come in and not have to sit around and do that sort of seal thing where you're hoping that, you know, a server will come and take care of you. It's nothing worse. Yeah, oh man, I want to drink, you know, I want to drink. So we set up at the end of the bar these areas where you can order your own drink. So a bartender will be stationed here to serve the walk-up customers, and we have another one at the other end of the bar. And the idea is, if I'm a guzzler and you're a sipper, I can get up and get my drinks as quickly as I want to, and you can get yours as quickly as you want to. And we've got the order food over here sign, and once you do that, you get a buzzer, and when your food is hot and ready to go, you get up off your seat again, go pick it up at the pickup window, and you're eating. It was really responding to the log jam that a lot of places have, where the server kind of is holding you hostage and a bartender won't help you because they're not getting tipped by you, and you see your server. So we just wanted to get rid of all that. I actually got the idea at a little barbecue joint in Portland, Maine, and I'll be the first one to tell you I haven't had an original idea. What I've done is seen a lot of great things and pulled them together in these bars. And Salvage Barbecue had a system just like this. So we just, you know, massaged the thing a little bit, and that became the Franklin Hall model. We have QR codes. People can order a drink and get their drinks or their food brought to them. But honestly, most people just get up and order their food, and it works great. During the pandemic, the gym that was next door ended up closing. We looked at the space and it was not as big as this, but we thought, okay, we can add a private party space. So we busted a hole in the wall. Well, first we signed a lease and arranged it with the landlord, but we busted a hole in the wall, created this second room in here. It's really more of the same. Billy Colbert, who's done the graphic work for us in so many of the bars, Penn Social, Jackpot, Astro Beer Hall, and the original Franklin, now the addition. Billy really collaborated on all of this and did the mural work. The Burma Shave sign from an old Burma Shave shaving cream, add a lot of kind of Franklin era, you know, kind of gin sort of cool stuff. And old metal, rusty, the bar is made of steel. I mean, you can't dent this bar. And then 3 pool tables, which are great. It's a little diversion, so people can come in here, have a party. They can play pool, they can just sort of hang around and have a good time. The only problem that we had from adding this is it's a little bit of a stress on the kitchen. So then there was a little bit of talk about, oh, maybe we should expand the kitchen, maybe we should make the kitchen bigger. We just decided no. We're just gonna stick with what we have. It works great. We'll really streamline the menu, and we'll make sure that what we're providing, we can provide quickly and consistently. consistently. You know, when we're super jammed, the wait times are a little longer, but at the end of the day, I think that was the right call. We custom built the bar. These tables, you know, you buy off the shelf, but it's a perfect high top table. You can sit 4 people at it, you can get 6 people. This old green, these columns, it's the original DC Transit green, which I really loved keeping because I remember the old DC Transit buses that were two-tone green, and that was one of them. And really, for the rest of it's pretty simple. Got some TVs on the wall, big lights over the pool tables, but guess what? Those are from IKEA. They cost like 60 bucks. So we're not spending huge money to make a place like this feel great. We're doing it in a thoughtful way. This old rusty metal, we had a great guy named Carter Anderson who sourced endless amount of steel and rust and chaos from warehouses. It's not a complicated place. Being casual, being a place where people can come in and know that they're not going to break the bank. We want it to be a place that you can think of going 2-3 times a week, or at least a couple times a month. We're on that rotation for people when they think about where to go, and I think that's probably why we're successful. One of the nice things about this place before we open next door is that we did have a space for private parties, this Roosevelt room. We put a fireplace in the back, which is great on a cold night. You get the warmth of the fire. It can be kind of turned into really anything for a party. You've got your cozy nook. You can fit 30 people back here, and that's been very popular. But it also gives you a place to sit if you're not really into watching the game or being a part of the big, you know, all the noise. But this is where you go to have conversations and hang out with your friends. Billy Colbert, who did the design work here, is a genius. And he did things like the Roosevelt room. He took old Roosevelt campaign posters, elect Roosevelt for president. He took newspapers, ads from the period, blew them up, created wallpaper. And I gotta show you one of my favorite things about this bar. This is not gonna be creepy. This is my favorite bathroom in the entire kingdom. Okay, that's a urinal, one size fits all. There is no other toilet in there. It also has some of the best graffiti. I'm a little bit of a graffiti historian. I like to kind of read the best of the graffiti. This one says, "This toilet is broken, my back keeps getting wet, and there's no toilet paper in here." I love it. The other thing I love about this is it's so small that you're constantly turning the fan on, you can barely operate. So from a bar building standpoint, I love having lots of little bathrooms and keeping them in a tight space. Plywood on the walls, right? Plywood. Who makes a bathroom wall out of plywood? We do, because it's simple, it's easy. You can sand off offensive graffiti. It's funny, I do actually do a lot of thinking about how these bathrooms work for our places, because you get bottlenecks in terms of people waiting. You get bathrooms that can be, if they're knocked out of commission by customers who are tearing them up. You know, in the case of this, we've got 8 separate stalls. And so if one breaks, we can lock the door and we're not out of business. And that's something that you really want to think about when you're doing high volume. You know, when we're crushing it, this bar is alive and cooking. You know, it's 3 deep and people are ordering, and then we've got the lines at either end. We put these tables in as fixed tables, took old beams from some construction project and did our own welding and put them together, fixed them to the floor so they can't be moved. And so this is sort of an area that where we know we have control over what happens here. We know the flow. This mirror up here is something that I found, actually Carter Anderson, my sorcerer of crazy stuff, found it. It's the intake on an old DC something jet plane. And somebody put a mirror in there, but I always thought it'd be great to have like a body being sucked into it and maybe legs sticking out. Maybe too gruesome, but we had it at Highline for a little while. It didn't fit, and so we just put it over here. Found a spot and hung it, and I think it really just kind of adds a little something to the space. So the tables that we built here were interesting. We wanted to have beer garden tables, and we had at one point installed at Highline the old German beer garden tables, the traditional ones that you can buy. They're not expensive, they're fairly light plywood, they fold up, the benches are narrow, and they're not comfortable. And so what we noticed at Highline is we had customers sitting on them. You know, you'd get a big customer, say a 400-pounder, who's just sitting there, and they would be bouncing around and laughing, and we'd see the bench bending. You know, and then they were tippy because they were super narrow and the legs were narrow and the tables moved, and so we had no control over really the safety of the customers, but also how they worked. They also cantilevered over the edge, so if you sat down, if 400-pounder sat on the edge, the whole bench would flip up. So we put our brains to work and came up with building our own tables. We had a guy named Chris Beebell who was just one of the most wonderful people to work with. He was just a head-scratching problem solver, and he would just get down to it. He'd say, well, he talked a little like this. He said, well, you know, maybe we'll take some angle iron and weld it up and put it like this, and get some old boards in here and then we'll pour some Ultra Glow in it. And Ultra Glow is an epoxy finish that's really bulletproof, and the whole thing's coated in that, so it's just easy to keep clean. You know, I can see that these have started to fail a little bit, and so one of the great things about Ultra Glow is we can lightly sand it and put a fresh coat on with a brush, and it'll be as good as new and last another 5, 6, 7 years. The benches, we needed somebody to make, so Chris said, well, my sister does some upholstery work, and his sister Carol did the upholstery on these pieces, and I see they're starting to go after heavy use since 2017, so we'll have her make us some fresh cushions. And the way we design them is great. We can just have her make us 2 fresh cushions and plug them in and just replace them as needed, and it's just 4 screws that hold the cushion on. The bases we welded up out of steel, and they're comfortable and just, you can't break them. And so, you know, people sit here, and if your butt is cozy and you got a nice place to lean and you can get all the beer in the world you want to drink and you can get your food, you're happy as can be. So one of the problems with any place that you go to get something to eat and drink is trying to figure out what's available. And so what we did here is we just made a big theater marquee sign. It's super easy. We don't have a big menu. What you see is what you get. During construction, we put this thing up, and we also put some kind of funny motivational messages on it. You know, the one that I remember best is Dawson says, "Get her done." And that was aimed at Chris, my table maker. We always had such a good time when we built these places. This one particularly, it was just a crew of people who I'd worked with on many bars. My old college roommate, Jeff McNabola, was the general contractor. As crazy as the day is long, but gets it done. And a crew of craftspeople, electricians, plumbers, carpenters, laborers. It was a team, true team effort. And then those guys do the maintenance still. They come by, we see them, they come in with their wives or girlfriends. And to me, that's a big part of it, you know, that somebody can come back, be proud and say, I built this place, and we know them, and we say, hey, how are you? You know, by name. And it's a small reward for doing a great job, but I think it's really important to have that. So when it came to lighting the bar, you can see here the Halloween skull hanging from the simple bear bulb. And the bear bulb is easy, it's fairly cheap. I don't love it, I like it. It's a little glary in the eyes. We found these lights. Apparently these were leftovers from some Disney movie. There was clear glass in them, but we wanted them to be kind of warm and to light down onto the bar so you could see your menu or see whatever you've got here. The simple fix for these was to find some theater gel. So lighting gel, just strips of plastic that they sell to go over lights in theater productions. We cut them to size and just inserted them. And so now we have a really warm, pleasing red light that radiates out, but the white light shines down, and at no point is any of that light glaring in your eyes. And that's a big part of bars that drives me crazy. If you sit down at the bar, I think the worst case I ever remember was a bar that had a big mirror behind it and then a row of track lights above the bar, and they had aimed all the track lights in to light the liquor. But essentially when you're sitting at the bar, you're looking in the mirror and you were blinded by the reflection of these halogen track lights. And I kept telling the bartender, dude, all those lights make me want to do is leave. And the bartender's like, boss says he likes them. Boss says he likes them. It's the stupidest thing I've ever heard. What I tell my people, if you don't know what to do, if there's a question that you're not sure about, do what you would do if you owned this place. And that's just the best thing that you can tell somebody who works with you in any job, in any place. Do what you would do if you own this place, because the decisions you would make at that point are the ones that would make sure that your family gets fed, that the rent gets paid, that the place looks good and feels good, the customers walk in and find a place that they're excited to walk into. Do what you would do if you own this place. You know, these lights, we got Carter Anderson again, my collector of junk. He found these. These are sort of industrial, bomb-proof drop lights. I think we got a box of 20 of these things. I don't know what, you know, Carter would come up and say, yeah, I got a box of 20 of these things. It's $2,000. And I'd be like, I'll take them. My partners would be like, well, what are you talking about? Like, that's crazy. Why'd we buy those? Because I don't know. They're cool. They feel good. They're heavy. We'll do something with them. And sure enough, we needed some lights over these. While it's not the best light in the world, it's a good looking fixture. And sometimes that's the thing that I look for. It's just a fixture that's good looking, it's funky, they're unique, they're functional, and they're cool. And also they got a hook here, so if you want to hang your coat up, okay, maybe not that, but you can certainly hang a skeleton on them at Halloween. The tables here are heavy, wood bolted down. Chris Beebell and the crew, they just built these. Jimmy Fowler, another one of my great carpenters, was just, the guy just could produce like nobody ever. What we did, we found these crazy bases from an old machine shop, and they, you know, they've got wheels and gears and everything, and we stripped them down so that they weren't going to hurt anybody's knees, and then we just put these tops on them. This table can seat 12, 14 people in a pinch. There's that question of bar height or table height. Well, at Franklin Hall, we have both. Everything close to the bar is bar height, so that at no point are you sitting there nose to butt, you know, that difference between sitting down low. But then when you get out into the body of the room, we go to sit down level, low level, and that works great. So there you have it. This bar makes me smile every time I come in. We have an incredible staff. Our bartenders are making great money. Our manager is on top of it. We've got people up and down the block, around the corner coming in all times of the day. We have failures and we have successes, and this was one of the big successes. Thanks for joining me. I look forward to seeing you here sometime. Stop by, have a beer, and tell them Jeff sent you. Take care.